For almost 1,000 years, the Cavendish family has skillfully navigated the turbulent tides of political, economic and social upheaval on Albion. And emerging from the shadows of the Norman Conquest, they have forged a legacy not merely as nobility, but as a formidable property dynasty. Indeed, their vast estates, including the majestic Chatsworth House and the extensive Devonshire lands, stand as enduring symbols of their wealth and influence, and politically, the lineage has been ever present. Today, we investigate their saga, one of strategic marriages, shrewd investments, and an intrinsic mastery of power dynamics, chronicling an aristocratic family that has shaped the very fabric of British governance through time. In the stately world of British aristocracy, where old money families often focus on acquiring more and more lands and piling up their millions, a different pursuit captivates a few: a game of power and politics. Cue the Cavendish family, the undisputed champions of Britain's political chessboard. They've mastered the art of power with the finesse of a grand master, and this £900 million lineage has wielded their political prowess with such deft subtlety that they've not only had family members serve as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the Cavendish have kin who've boldly turned down the role 3 times, bringing the phrase "playing hard to get" to a whole new aristocratic level. Furthermore, over their nearly millennium-long history, the Dukes and Duchesses of Devonshire, the noble title donned by the Cavendish family, have been the backbone behind 2 of England's most iconic female leaders. And yet, with great power comes great tragedy, as it were. This family has even been entangled in one of the UK's most eerie and enduring true crime mysteries, a possible serial killer plot straight out of a Victorian thriller. In today's episode, we share a family story that isn't just about wealth and titles. It's a complex web of ambition, power and intrigue that has shaped British history as we describe the Cavendish, the most powerful, old money British political family. In the swirling social whirlpool of British high society, Peregrine Cavendish, also known as the 12th Duke of Devonshire, is not just any blue-blooded aristocrat. His family tree is more like a who's who of history. Think of family members marrying Kennedys, and Princess Diana as a distant cousin, and you'd just be scratching the gold-plated surface. And then, of course, let's not forget the cash. As of last year, the Cavendish family's bank balance is a dizzying £900 million. Consider it a handsome ransom for meticulously maintaining sprawling estates and an art stash that would make a museum blush. But the Cavendish clan's luxurious liquidity is just the tip of the iceberg. Their real treasury trove lies in their property portfolio, with Chatsworth House in Derbyshire being the glittering crown jewel. This Grade 1 listed architectural wonder isn't just a house, it's a dynasty's home for nearly 5 centuries, thanks to Sir William Cavendish and Bess of Hardwicke's real estate savvy back in 1555. With an estate that covers a house, stables, a garden that's more like a small country, 105 acres to be precise, and a 1,800-acre park nearly the size of a small city. It's an adventure playground that would make any adult wish they were a kid again. But wait, there's more. The Cavendish property empire extends to historic sites like Bolton Abbey and Lismore Castle. Bolton Abbey in Yorkshire is a baronial dream, serving as the Duke and Duchess's private Yorkshire pad. And over in Ireland, Lismore Castle adds a dash of fairy tale magic as a castle for rent, because who doesn't want to live out their Cinderella fantasies? Now, let's talk art. The Cavendish collection at Chatsworth House is a visual feast spanning 500 years. And it's got everything from Leonardo da Vinci's sketches to Gainsborough's and Lucian Freud's portraits, capturing any and all epochs from regal elegance to modern vibes. And then there's Raffaele Monti's sculpture of a veiled Vestal Virgin, alongside costumes and family jewels that would make even the most seasoned art critic's jaw drop. But it's not all keep-out signs and velvet ropes. This treasure trove doubles as a goldmine for scholars and artists, showcasing the Cavendish family's dedication to art appreciation. They're not hoarding these masterpieces. Parts of the collection are on display at Chatsworth House, allowing the public to feast their eyes on these gems. But the Duke, hitched to Amanda Carmen Haywood Lonsdale since 1967, isn't just about fancy houses and art. He's a bigwig in the horse racing world too. Think high-profile roles like Her Majesty's representative at Ascot and chairman of Ascot Racecourse Limited. and his time at the Jockey Club and as its senior steward saw some major shake-ups in the racing industry, including the birth of the British Horse Racing Board. Politically, the Duke's roles like Chancellor of the University of Derby and Her Majesty's representative at Ascot aren't just fancy titles. They hint at his sway in public life. But here's the kicker. Despite his lofty position, his views on the aristocracy's place in today's world are surprisingly progressive. In 2010, he was ready to ditch his title if hereditary peers got the boot from the House of Lords. He's basically saying, hanging on to those titles in these times is more puzzling than a Rubik's Cube, and I'm fine with letting it go. However, at this point you're probably wondering, how did this $900 million political behemoth get their start? If they're one of the few aristocratic families willing to give up their titles and start anew. In order to get our answer, we'll have to step back more than 500 years to a place unsurprisingly called Cavendish, England. The captivating saga of the Cavendish family began in the 14th century with one Sir John Cavendish of, believe it or not, Cavendish, Suffolk, England. This family, bearing the name Cavendish, draws its origins all the way back to the Norman era, specifically to the benevolent Robert de Guernon, a notable figure in King Henry I's court, remembered for his generous contributions to the Abbey of Gloucester. Over time, the family name evolved, known as the Norman French Gernon, until the 1500s, when it gracefully transitioned to Cavendish. And this transition from a Norman French name to an Anglo-Norman identity is emblematic of the profound influence of Norman ancestry within the English aristocracy. For instance, other old money British families that we've covered on this channel, like the Grosvenors and the Percys, both boast Norman roots and exemplify this prestigious connection as well. Indeed, Norman lineage, often seen as a hallmark of noble blood, is intricately woven into the fabric of the English aristocratic identity, with these families carrying not just a name, but a legacy of the Norman Conquest and its enduring impact on the social and political landscape of England. Now, the mid-16th century heralded a remarkable rise in the Cavendish family's fortunes, mainly a result of strategic marriages and astute financial decisions. For example, the family's dramatic ascent was catapulted by the union of Bess of Hardwicke and Sir William Cavendish, the esteemed treasurer of the King's Chamber. First, utilizing deft social maneuvering in 1549, this power couple acquired the majestic Chatsworth estate, a symbol of their burgeoning wealth and soaring ambitions. Certainly, Bess, known for her sharp business acumen, further expanded the family's empire through pioneering ventures in mining and glassmaking. Her extraordinary vision in meticulously documenting the household furnishings of her properties at Chatsworth, Hardwicke, and Chelsea in 1601 ensured the preservation of a priceless collection of historical textiles, offering a rare glimpse into the lavish lifestyle and rich heritage of the Cavendish family. This collection, now known as the Hardwicke Hall Textiles, stands as the largest private collection of textiles by a single family. And Bess's architectural contributions remain significant as well in British history. Thus, it is truly remarkable that the Cavendish family was home to one of England's most influential women as early as the late 16th century, and one whose power and foresight continue to resonate in the present day. Bess's legacy, a blend of cultural patronage and architectural innovation, not only highlights her individual prowess, but also underscores the enduring influence of the unsung heroines of history. Now, the union of Bess and Sir William produced 8 children, including William Cavendish, from whom the Dukes of Devonshire descend, and the couple's shared vision and ambition laid a solid foundation for their family's subsequent prominence. Then in 1617, the Cavendish family status was significantly enhanced when William Cavendish was appointed the Earl of Devonshire. This title was more than ceremonial. It greatly elevated the family's societal position and influence, and young William Cavendish had a notable political and business career. Following his mother's passing in 1608, he inherited substantial wealth and property, which he judiciously managed, augmenting his estates and investing in overseas enterprises like the Virginia and Bermuda companies. Indeed, the Cavendish family's involvement in the Virginia and Bermuda companies in the early 17th century highlights a complex chapter of history, blending significant economic success with the darker aspects of colonial enterprise. You see, after inheriting substantial wealth and property in 1608, William Cavendish invested in the Virginia Company, a venture chartered by King James I aimed at establishing colonial settlements in North America. The company, comprising the London and Plymouth companies, famously established America's Jamestown in 1607, the first permanent English settlement in North America. Thus, it can definitively be said that through their investments, the Cavendish family had a direct hand in helping to found what would become the United States of America. However, the Virginia Company's business model first relied heavily on indentured servants for labor, before soon thereafter granting its officers land with attached labor, including slaves, as part of its strategy to fund the colonial government. Additionally, the Cavendish family invested in the Bermuda Company, a subsidiary of the Virginia Company, managing the colony of Bermuda. Bermuda became significant for its tobacco cultivation and salt production, again offering high returns to investors like the Cavendish family. However, like the Virginia Company, Bermuda's early history was marred by the use of indentured servants and the introduction of African slaves, reflecting the harsh realities of colonial expansion. Therefore, while the Cavendish family's investments in these companies were financially astute, contributing to their wealth and status, they were also entwined with the darker aspects of colonialism and slavery, a reflection of the complex and often troubling history of European expansion into the New World. William Cavendish's political stature was also distinguished by his various roles, including Member of Parliament, High Sheriff of Derbyshire, and Justice of the Peace. His ascent to Baron Cavendish of Hardwicke in 1605 and Earl of Devonshire in 1618 was a clear indication of royal favour, enhancing his authority and standing. But it was Cavendish's association with Thomas Hobbes, the esteemed philosopher, that significantly contributed to his power. Hobbes, who began as Cavendish's secretary in 1608 and later became the Earl of Devonshire's tutor, brought intellectual prestige and access to influential circles for the family. Hobbes's political philosophy, particularly in his seminal work Leviathan, posited government as a mechanism for collective security justified by a social contract. And this perspective likely influenced Cavendish's political strategies and governance approach. Additionally, Hobbes' materialist views and scientific explanations of phenomena as matter in motion could have shaped Cavendish's wealth management and estate expansion strategies. Thus, the Cavendish family's rise to prominence presented a yin-yang style historical narrative. On the one hand, they are admirable masters of business and political power, being home to both one of England's most successful and influential women as far back as the 16th century, as well as the family's involvement in creating the future United States of America. On the other hand, their wealth undoubtedly came in part from their involvement in the rapacious expansion of the mid-Atlantic slave trade. In the next chapter, we'll discover how the then wealthy family expanded their influence even further, going from just another rich bunch of aristocrats to the very top of parliamentary power. In the late 17th century, the Cavendish family's status soared when William Cavendish, the fourth Earl of Devonshire, was made the first Duke of Devonshire in 1694 by King William III and Queen Mary II. And this elevation, a reward for his support during the Glorious Revolution, reflected the family's loyalty to the new monarchs and their ascending position within the English aristocracy. The Cavendish family's rise to the dukedom was thus not just due to their political savvy, but also strategic marriages and wealth accumulation through agriculture, manufacturing, and finance. And they would use their dukedom to wield unfathomable power in the following centuries. For example, William Cavendish, the fourth Duke of Devonshire, carved out a distinct place for himself in British history. Born to the third Duke of Devonshire and Catherine Hoskins in May 1720, Cavendish was destined for a life marked by privilege and power. And in 1741, he stepped into the political arena as the MP for Derbyshire, an achievement more a reflection of his family's clout and his unwavering allegiance to the Whig Party than of any personal political triumphs. In 1755, a pivotal moment in the Cavendish family's political narrative unfolded when he was appointed as the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, a role he held until 1757. During this period, the fourth Duke confronted the daunting task of fostering unity in Ireland's politically volatile environment. You see, the Irish political scene was sharply divided between those supporting the London administration and a patriot group advocating for Irish independence. Cavendish, who himself was a holder of land in Ireland, adeptly navigated this intricate political terrain, utilising his connections through marriage and friendships to engage with both factions. However, it was his brief but impactful tenure as Prime Minister of Great Britain from November 1756 to May 1757, amid the 7 Years' War, that truly marked the zenith of his political journey. Cavendish was propelled into the role of Prime Minister following William Pitt's refusal to join the ministry of the Duke of Newcastle and the reluctance of the great Whig families to endorse Pitt as Prime Minister. Despite being more of a political mediator than a traditional leader, Cavendish leveraged his personal charisma and the prestige of his family to broker peace between the warring factions. And as Prime Minister, he was regarded as a unifying figure, echoing his conciliatory approach in Ireland, and aimed to bridge deep political divides during a time of intense crisis. However, his tenure at the helm was brief, and the following year, when Pitt reconciled with Newcastle, Cavendish stepped down, subsequently assuming the role of Lord Chamberlain of the household, which he held until 1762. But his political career, characterised by his role as a peacemaker and a unifier in tumultuous times, remains a significant chapter in the storied history of the Cavendish family. However, echoing the monumental influence of Bess of Hardwicke, the Cavendish's family tree would soon intertwine with another legendary woman in British history, Georgiana Cavendish, Duchess of Devonshire. Born Georgiana Spencer, her entry into the Cavendish lineage as the wife of William Cavendish, the 5th Duke of Devonshire, and mother of the 6th Duke, added a layer of intrigue to this aristocratic family. Renowned for her charm and beauty, Georgiana was a formidable presence in both the social and political realms. And her support of key Whig politicians, like Charles James Fox, was a groundbreaking act for women of her time. Yet, behind the allure and political prowess, Georgiana's life was rife with personal struggles. Her gambling addiction led to astronomical debts, a secret only revealed after her untimely demise at 48. Furthermore, the unconventional nature of her marriage, marked by mutual infidelities and her affair with Charles Grey, was the subject of much public scrutiny. Despite these tribulations, she remained a devoted mother, challenging aristocratic norms by nursing her children herself. Additionally, Georgiana's legacy extends beyond her immediate life story. She's remembered as a fashion icon, a political influencer, and a woman who defied the constraints of her time. Furthermore, her life draws striking parallels with that of Diana, Princess of Wales, Georgiana's great-great-great-great-niece. Both women, separated by centuries, shared experiences of public fascination, personal struggles, and the weight of aristocratic life. However, it was with the rise of her son, the 6th Duke of Devonshire, that the Cavendish family would begin to make a strong turn in its legacy towards the sweeping progressive reforms that were coming to the West. The 6th Duke of Devonshire, another William Cavendish, born in 1790, stepped into a world vastly different from that of his ancestors. Inheriting the dukedom in 1811, along with a vast expanse of land and numerous stately homes, his entry into the political scene was set against a backdrop of burgeoning social change, and his political identity was deeply rooted in the reformist ideals of the Whig Party. Cavendish championed causes such as Catholic emancipation, the abolition of slavery, and the advocacy for shorter factory labour hours, and his commitment to these causes underscored a progressive mindset rare among his peers of the aristocracy. Now, despite the hurdle of deafness, which could have significantly hindered his political influence, Cavendish did not shy away from positions of considerable responsibility. He served as the Lord Chamberlain of the household twice, a role that placed him at the heart of the royal household's operations. But the Duke's interests extended beyond the confines of political chambers. His presidency of the Royal Horticultural Society in 1838 and his contributions to agriculture were significant, most notably in the development of the Cavendish banana, a variety that has become a staple in global diets. However, despite his public accomplishments, Cavendish's personal life bore the marks of unfulfilled romantic aspirations. Known as the Bachelor Duke, his unrequited love for Lady Caroline Ponsonby, who chose William Lamb, the future Prime Minister Lord Melbourne, over him, added a poignant chapter to his story. Moving forward to 1858, the Cavendish family's influence in British politics continued with William Cavendish, the 7th Duke of Devonshire. A key figure in the Reform Act of 1858, his support for this crucial piece of legislation was a defining moment. The Duke's backing of the Reform Bill led to his controversial ejection from Cambridge University. However, the robust network and influence of the Cavendish family ensured that he quickly secured another seat in the Fitzwilliam borough of Malton, and later in the family's stronghold in Derbyshire. But the Cavendish family's role in the Reform Act of 1858 was a vivid demonstration of their enduring ability to navigate the complex and often turbulent waters of British politics. However, it would be the tenure of Spencer Compton Cavendish, the 8th Duke of Devonshire, and a man who refused to become Prime Minister 3 times, where the family's true political sleight of hand for politics would be strongest on display. Spencer Compton Cavendish, the 8th Duke of Devonshire, was not merely another character in British politics. He was a central figure who masterfully navigated the complex world of power and influence. Born on the 23rd of July, 1833, in Lower Holker, Lancashire, England, young Spencer's early life was shadowed by his mother's untimely death, leaving him to be raised primarily by his father. But Cavendish's political journey commenced in 1857 when he secured a seat in Parliament for North Lancashire as a Liberal, mentored by Lord Palmerston. And following the death of his cousin, the 6th Duke, in 1858, his father ascended to the dukedom, and Cavendish became the Marquess of Hartington. His political prowess was increasingly evident by 1875, as he led the Liberal opposition, and his role as Secretary of State for India from 1880 to 1882 under Prime Minister William Gladstone was notable yet fraught with controversy, particularly over Irish Home Rule. But this issue marked a turning point in his career, leading him to decline a position in Gladstone's 1886 government. He instead chose to lead the Liberal Unionists, opposing Home Rule. Inheriting the dukedom in 1891, Cavendish, now the Duke of Devonshire, took his place in the House of Lords, and his tenure as Lord President of the Council and leader of the House of Lords from 1895 to 1903 showcased his political acumen. Indeed, historian Roy Jenkins noted his thrice refusal of the prime ministerial position, reflecting his political philosophy and temperament more than a lack of ambition. And his legacy stands out for his political navigation and principled decisions, as he led 3 different political parties, demonstrating his substantial influence in British politics. Victor Christian William Cavendish, the 9th Duke of Devonshire, also left a significant mark. Born in May 1868 in London, he quickly followed in his family's political footsteps, and after his father's death in 1891, he became the youngest Member of Parliament, later holding roles as Treasurer of the Royal Household and Financial Secretary to the Treasury. His political journey led him to the House of Lords in 1908, but Victor Cavendish's appointment as Governor-General of Canada in 1916 is perhaps his most notable chapter. Despite initial skepticism, his tenure was ultimately celebrated, effectively managing the challenges of World War I and Prime Minister Borden's leadership. His contributions, along with Lady Evelyn Petty Fitzmaurice, significantly impacted Ottawa's cultural scene, and in Canada, Cavendish is remembered for his engagement with contemporary issues and guidance through the Great War. His passing on in May 1938 marked the end of a significant era in British and Canadian history. However, it was his son, the 10th Duke, who would be involved in one of the most enigmatic mysteries in the history of the British nobility. Edward William Spencer Cavendish, the 10th Duke of Devonshire, was ushered into the world in May 1895 in London. His educational journey led him through the esteemed halls of Eton College and later Trinity College, Cambridge, where he was bestowed a Doctor of Law degree in 1938. Then, his foray into the political arena was marked by his tenure as a Member of Parliament for West Derbyshire from 1923 to 1938, after having married Lady Mary Alice Gascoigne Cecil, daughter of the 4th Marquess of Salisbury, in 1917. Indeed, this union was not only a blend of noble lineages, but also the starting point of a new generation, with the birth of 5 children. Now, in an intriguing twist of fate, it is through their eldest, William John Robert Cavendish, that the Cavendish and Kennedy families found their destinies intertwined. Kathleen Agnes Kennedy, known affectionately as Kick and sister to the future American President John F. Kennedy, was betrothed to that same William John Robert. This marriage was a union of two powerful families, yet it was marred by grief when William, destined to inherit the Dukedom of Devonshire, passed during World War II, paving the way for his brother, Andrew Cavendish, to ascend as the 11th Duke of Devonshire. However, the intricate bond between the Kennedys and the Cavendishes was not confined to this shared sorrow. It extended to personal connections, such as the close relationship between John F. Kennedy and Deborah, Andrew Cavendish's wife and Duchess of Devonshire. This bond was highlighted by the presence of the Devonshires at Kennedy's presidential inauguration and further cemented during the Cuban Missile Crisis, with Deborah gracing the White House as a guest. With that said, back to our murder mystery. You see, in the realm of Freemasonry, Edward's influence was significant. He served as the Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England from 1947 to 1950, speaking to his stature in this secretive society, and his prominence was also reflected in his land holdings, with the famed Chatsworth House and expansive estates across the UK and Ireland under his stewardship. However, Edward's life took a mysterious turn with his sudden demise on the 26th of November 1950 in Eastbourne at the age of 55. The initial explanation of a heart attack was clouded in controversy due to the involvement of Dr. John Bodkin Adams, a general practitioner who later gained notoriety as a suspected serial killer. Adams, who certified Edward's death as natural, was later embroiled in accusations of multiple patient deaths under suspicious circumstances. Furthermore, historian Pamela Cullen has speculated on Adams' motives, citing his affiliation with the Plymouth Brethren and their aversion to Freemasonry, possibly linking this to Edward's high-ranking status in the Freemason community. Yet, these theories remain in the realm of conjecture, leaving the true circumstances of Edward's death shrouded in mystery. And the absence of a coroner's inquest in Edward's case, a deviation from normative procedures for unexplained deaths, has only deepened the enigma. Comparisons to Dr. Harold Shipman, another British doctor convicted of multiple murders, have been drawn, though Adams himself was acquitted in a 1957 murder trial. And this chapter in the Duke's storied lineage and the annals of British medical history remains a perplexing and unresolved narrative. But the Cavendish family, even now, continues to evolve with its newer generations, as exemplified by William Cavendish, known professionally as Bill Burlington, the Earl of Burlington. Born in June 1969, he is the son of Peregrine Cavendish, the current Duke of Devonshire. William's education at Eton College and the University of Cambridge, followed by studies in photography under Jorge Lewinsky, marks a blend of traditional aristocratic upbringing and modern academic pursuits. Therefore, Lord Burlington, in addition to his noble lineage, has carved a niche for himself as a professional photographer. His role as the Chancellor of the University of Derby since March 2018 further highlights his engagement with contemporary society and his contribution to the academic community. Now, in 2007, Lord Burlington married Laura Roundell, whose background as a former model, fashion editor and stylist adds another dimension to the diverse pursuits of the family. The couple's family life, with their three children, Lady Maud Cavendish, James Cavendish and Lady Eleanor Cavendish, brings a personal element to their public personas. Notably, James, born on the 12th of December 2010, follows his father as the second in line for the Dukedom of Devonshire. Thus, the Cavendish family's future, represented by Lord Burlington and his son James, is a fusion of enduring heritage and fresh perspectives. As they uphold the family's legacy, they also have the unique opportunity to reshape it, infusing it with their individual interests, passions, and responses to a rapidly changing world. Among the ranks of British aristocracy, the Cavendish family, the Dukes of Devonshire, stands out with a rich heritage. Tracing their roots back to the Norman Conquest, they've managed to hang on to their hefty slice of history without seeming like they're just relics in a museum. Indeed, the Cavendishes have not only endured but flourished, adeptly navigating the financial intricacies of the 21st century, while preserving a connection to customs and values going back nearly 1,000 years. In today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we take you on a tour through the Cavendish family's grand estates and residences, uncovering the opulent symbols of their historic legacy as we explore the ancestral homes of the Cavendish dynasty. Number 1. Chatsworth House. First on our list of the Cavendish family's old money mansions will, of course, be the most iconic. Undoubtedly, Chatsworth House in Derbyshire has been the magnificent ancestral home of the Cavendish family since 1549, when Bess of Hardwicke and her second husband, Sir William Cavendish, acquired it. And 17 generations of the Devonshire family have called this architectural gem home, making it a living chapter in British history. And this Grade 1 listed marvel stands out for its grandeur and extensive art collections, evolving over centuries to reflect the eclectic tastes of its occupants. Among the notable figures is William Cavendish, the first Duke of Devonshire, a key player in the Glorious Revolution of 1688. Now, Chatsworth's guest book reads like a who's who of history and celebrity. King William III and Queen Mary II were among its distinguished visitors in the 17th century, while Princess Victoria, later Queen Victoria, had her first formal adult dinner here in 1832. Additionally, the estate's appeal even extends to the silver screen, featuring in films like Pride and Prejudice and The Duchess. Today, Chatsworth is managed by the Chatsworth House Trust, a charitable foundation established in 1981 to preserve its splendour for public enjoyment. But the 12th Duke of Devonshire, Peregrine Cavendish, and his wife Amanda continue to reside here, maintaining a vibrant connection to the estate's storied past. Now, spanning 35,000 acres, Chatsworth includes several sub-estates: the Main Estate, West Estate, Shottle Estate, Staveley Estate, and Scarecliffe Estate. The Main Estate, covering 12,300 acres, forms the heart of Chatsworth. This central area, featuring the park and picturesque villages like Baslow and Pilsley, showcases landscape artistry by renowned architects such as Capability Brown. And the River Derwent meanders through this serene expanse, epitomizing centuries of meticulous cultivation and architectural brilliance. Next, the West Estate, encompassing 6,400 acres, offers a rugged beauty with high ground extending into the Peak District and Staffordshire. This particular area's wild charm and diverse wildlife make it a vital part of Chatsworth's natural landscape, providing breathtaking vistas and rich biodiversity. Now, the Shottle Estate's 3,500 acres are predominantly agricultural, with a focus on dairy farming, and its fertile lands produce high-quality dairy products, essential to the estate's agricultural output. Next, the Staveley Estate, covering 3,400 acres near Chesterfield, is a blend of industrial sites, woodlands, and arable farms. This mix reflects the dynamic nature of land use in the region. And Staveley Works, an industrial site within the estate, provides employment and income, while the surrounding woodlands and farms enhance its agricultural diversity and environmental stewardship. Lastly, Scarecliffe Estate, the largest sub-estate at 9,300 acres, lies east of Chesterfield and is predominantly arable farmland. Its vast fields are dedicated to crop production, managed with a focus on sustainability and efficiency. This approach ensures that Scarecliffe's agricultural output remains robust for future generations. Thus, Chatsworth Estate is a harmonious blend of historical preservation and modern agricultural innovation, and the Cavendish family's careful stewardship has kept it as a vibrant and thriving part of Derbyshire, attracting visitors from around the globe and contributing significantly to the local community. Number 2. Bolton Abbey. Perched in the lush cradle of North Yorkshire's Wharfdale, the Bolton Abbey estate offers a majestic sprawl of 33,000 acres, a scenic domain intimately linked to the Cavendish dynasty for over 2.5 centuries. But the tale of this grand estate begins in 1748, woven through the marital union of Baroness Clifford and William Cavendish, the 4th Duke of Devonshire. With each generation, the Cavendish lineage has adored and shaped Bolton Abbey, etching their unique influences upon its historical and environmental canvas. And currently, the 12th Duke, Peregrine Cavendish, and his wife Amanda often grace Bolton Abbey Hall, continuing the familial legacy. Bolton Abbey has played host to an illustrious roster of guests, from monarchs to the stars of screen and stage. King George V's repeat appearances underscored the estate's regal significance, and in more contemporary times, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip graced Bolton Abbey Hall during the 2005 Royal Ascot races held in nearby York. And the architectural and cultural facets of the estate mirror the Cavendish family's flair for integrating historical grandeur with homely elegance. Nestled amid the Yorkshire Dales, the estate is a breathtaking blend of rugged moorlands, tranquil woodlands, and fertile farmlands. It boasts 1,500 acres of woods and 52 farms, enhancing both its agricultural yield and ecological diversity, and the River Wharfe, meandering gracefully through this panorama, adds both beauty and sustenance to the land. A magnet for over 400,000 visitors each year, Bolton Abbey invites exploration with more than 80 miles of public trails, including the renowned Dales Way, and the estate's iconic stepping stones offer a whimsical and adventurous river crossing that captivates all who dare to tread their path. For those wishing to extend their stay, the estate provides an array of accommodations from cosy holiday cottages to grand barn conversions and farmhouses. Alongside, it features a diverse array of 146 properties encompassing both residential charm and commercial potential, with offerings that range from office spaces to quaint delicatessens. Now, the historical heartbeat of Bolton Abbey is its priory, established in 1154 by the Augustinians and standing resilient through centuries of change. Despite the dissolution in 1539, the priory ruins and the operational priory church of St. Mary and St. Cuthbert continue to enchant and serve the local populace. In the careful hands of the Cavendish family, Bolton Abbey remains not only a cherished heirloom, but also a lively and integral part of the Yorkshire Dales community, continuing to draw admirers from across the globe. Number 3. Lismore Castle. Steeped in over 270 years of Cavendish family heritage, Lismore Castle stands as a resplendent emblem of aristocratic grandeur in Ireland's verdant landscape. Now, this storied estate entered Cavendish hands in 1753, sealing a union between Lady Charlotte Boyle, heiress of the 3rd Earl of Burlington and 4th Earl of Cork, and William Cavendish, the man destined to become the 4th Duke of Devonshire. Since that pivotal acquisition, Lismore Castle has embraced a vibrant tapestry of Cavendish triumphs and tragedies, all while nurturing a profound family legacy. The 5th Duke, also named William Cavendish, left a tangible mark in 1775 with the construction of an elegant arched bridge that gracefully arches over the River Blackwater. Yet, it was the 6th Duke, affectionately dubbed the Bachelor Duke, who profoundly reimagined Lismore Castle. From 1811, this visionary duke orchestrated a grand transformation, enlisting the genius of architects like William Atkinson and Sir Joseph Paxton, later famed for designing the Crystal Palace, to reimagine the castle in a sumptuous Gothic style, using finely quarried Derbyshire stone. The Bachelor Duke's fervour for Lismore was boundless, fueling extensive restorations that elevated the estate to a quasi-feudal regal fortress. His collaboration with Paxton, who had ascended from an under-gardener to a lauded architect, infused the castle with its distinctive Gothic silhouette and architectural finesse. Then, the mid-19th century ushered in another era of splendour under the Duke's guidance. He tasked J.G. Crace of London and the eminent architect A.W.N. Pugin with transforming the dilapidated chapel of the old Bishop's Palace into a grand medieval-style banqueting hall. This hall, crowned with a chimney-piece heralded at the Great Exhibition of 1851, now welcomes visitors with Sead Mille Failte, 100,000 welcomes. After the Bachelor Dukes era ended in 1858, Lismore Castle continued to be a beloved sanctuary for the Cavendish family. In the 1930s and 1940s, it became the cherished residence of Lord Charles Cavendish and his wife, Adele Astaire, sister of the iconic Fred Astaire. Adele, a frequent visitor until 1981, often brought her celebrated brother along, enhancing the castle's allure. Lismore has also played host to a dazzling array of guests, including British royals, luminaries of the arts, and President John F. Kennedy, linked by family marriage to the Cavendishes through his sister Kathleen. Architecturally, the castle witnessed significant changes under the 6th Duke's initiative as William Atkinson and later Sir Joseph Paxton reinvented its structure into the Gothic masterpiece seen today. This overhaul not only revamped the castle's external appearance, but also enriched its interiors with lavish plasterwork, sumptuous tapestries, and luxurious furnishings. Today, Lismore Castle remains more than just an architectural wonder, it is a vibrant home. Currently, it is a part-time Irish residence for the Duke of Devonshire, while his son, Lord Burlington, oversees its affairs. And in 2005, Lord Burlington spearheaded the transformation of the castle's West Range into a contemporary art gallery, Lismore Castle Arts, and opened much of the interior for group accommodations. Number 4. Compton Place. Compton Place, a regal estate in Eastbourne, East Sussex, remains deeply rooted in the storied annals of the Cavendish family, the Dukes of Devonshire. The estate was woven into the Cavendish tapestry in 1782 through the matrimonial alliance of Lady Elizabeth Compton and Lord George Cavendish, the second son of the 4th Duke of Devonshire. This union heralded the beginning of the Cavendish stewardship of Compton Place, which was further cemented in 1858, when the 7th Duke of Devonshire, William Cavendish, inherited it following his cousin's demise, the 2nd Earl of Burlington. Originally christened Bourne Place, this Jacobean manor, transformed in 1726 by Colin Campbell into a Palladian masterpiece, reflects the aesthetic evolution dictated by its various custodians. Commissioned by Spencer Compton, Britain's second Prime Minister, the estate's architectural lineage is highlighted by its symmetry, classical forms, and an imposing grandeur that dominates its landscape. And the Cavendish connection is marked by several influential family members who have called Compton Place home, from Lord George Cavendish, who introduced the estate into the family holdings, to the 7th Duke of Devonshire, who made it a pivotal management hub for their Sussex estates. But the 10th Duke's era was tinged with mystery and tragedy, marked by his sudden death in 1950, shadowed by the infamous Eastbourne doctor, John Bodkin Adams. And Compton Place has played host to an array of distinguished guests over the years, including royal figures like Queen Alexandra and King Edward VII in 1892, enhancing its historical allure. Furthermore, the estate's adaptive use over time includes periods as a ladies' finishing school and later a language school, which welcomed future luminaries such as Benazir Bhutto. Now, the architectural significance of Compton Place is encapsulated in its Palladian style, particularly evident in the south elevation. This aspect was designed by Campbell and later augmented in 1806 by George Cavendish, the 1st Earl of Burlington, with a stately Doric peristyle, and the interiors are a showcase of opulent plasterwork and stucco decorations, notably in the gallery where a unique stucco portrait bust of Colin Campbell, the estate's architect, resides. Of course, we can't overlook the Duke's bedroom, a lavish chamber adorned with stucco reliefs inspired by classical themes such as Titian's Venus and Adonis. This room, originally conceived by Spencer Compton for a royal visit from King George II that never transpired, later welcomed other royal figures, including George VI and his daughters in 1946. The library, too, stands out with its original leather wallpaper, albeit dimmed by anachronistic 1960s lighting. The surrounding grounds of Compton Place have also been subject to evolution, originally designed with statue-lined walks that have since been moved to Chatsworth House. Today, these grounds are partially occupied by the Royal Eastbourne Golf Club, founded in 1887 and historically linked to the Cavendish family. In its more recent history, Compton Place's adaptability was tested in the mid-20th century when it was leased as a school in response to financial pressures from heavy death duties. Though Compton Place remains under private ownership with restricted public access, it continues to serve as a beacon of architectural magnificence and historical richness. Its legacy, shaped by the Cavendish family's enduring influence and commitment to preservation, ensures that Compton Place remains a captivating subject for both historians and architecture enthusiasts, securing its place as a cherished jewel in the fabric of East Sussex's heritage. Number 5, Holker Estate. And last on our list of old money mansions of the Cavendish family, Holker Hall, a stately manor majestically sited on the northwest coast of England in Cumbria, boasts a deeply woven history with the family, having been a part of their heritage since 1756. Now, the hall first became associated with the family when Lord George Augustus Cavendish acquired it through marriage from a Lowther cousin, beginning a connection that has spanned over 268 years and counting. But the hall's origins stretch back to the early 16th century, initially under the ownership of Cartmel Priory. After the dissolution of the monasteries in 1536, the estate changed hands to George Preston, who began constructing the hall. The Preston family maintained ownership until 1697, when Catherine Preston's marriage brought the estate into the Lowther family fold, where it remained until it transitioned to the Cavendish lineage in 1756. Holker Hall's narrative is punctuated by various transformations and pivotal events, including a devastating fire in 1871 that consumed the entire West Wing. William Cavendish, the 7th Duke of Devonshire, saw this calamity as an opportunity to reconstruct the hall on a more magnificent scale. The architects Paley and Austin of Lancaster were commissioned to design the new wing, resulting in the majestic red sandstone Elizabethan Gothic structure admired today. Under the stewardship of the Cavendish family, Holker Hall has flourished. Lucy Cavendish, the estate's current custodian, assumed management in 2014 from her father, Lord Cavendish. Despite not being the eldest child, her profound affinity for Holker Hall and her artistic acumen made her an ideal successor. And she has passionately focused on sustainability and promoting local craftsmanship, continuing the family's legacy of diligent stewardship. Holker Hall has served as a residence to many notable Cavendishes, including the 7th Duke, who played a critical role in its 19th century reconstruction. And the hall's interiors are lavishly decorated with family portraits, featuring a self-portrait by Van Dyck, and its library houses books from Henry Cavendish's collection, emphasizing the family's enduring bond with the estate. These days, encompassing about 17,000 acres on the Cartmel Peninsula, Holker Hall is a hub of diverse business ventures spanning holiday parks, quarrying, residential property, and property development, alongside farming, forestry, horticulture, and hospitality venues and events. At the heart of this grand estate is Holker Hall itself, the principal residence of Lucy Cavendish and her husband, Tor McLaren. Following the 1871 fire, the hall was reborn in a neo-Elizabethan style, balancing historical grandeur with the needs of a modern family home and public attraction. Surrounded by award-winning gardens celebrated for their exotic plant species, the hall thrives due to the region's unique microclimate. But agriculture remains a vital component of the estate's operations, producing high-quality items such as cheese, honey, and the acclaimed Holker Saltmarsh lamb. These products reflect the estate's commitment to excellence in farming and artisanal craftsmanship. Tourism and hosting events also play a pivotal role at Holker Hall. Throughout the year, the estate buzzes with activity from the Holker Garden Festival, often dubbed the Chelsea of the North, to local producers' markets and the festive winter market. These events not only spotlight local produce and horticulture, but also strengthen community ties and enhance the visitor experience. In its entirety, Holker Estate stands as a dynamic and historically significant landmark, seamlessly integrating traditional farming with contemporary hospitality and tourism in the heart of Cumbria. Imagine you and your family fall asleep tonight, and when you wake up, you have been graced with an aristocratic inheritance to become dukes and duchesses. What type of palatial estate do you wish you could spend your Sunday mornings puttering around in? Perhaps you'd enjoy meandering through the opulent corridors of Eaton Hall or ambling amidst the ornate gardens of Blenheim Palace. Well, if your name was William Cavendish, heir to the Dukedom of Devonshire and member of the legendary Cavendish dynasty, you and your family would awaken to the sprawling expanse of Bolton Abbey. This historical estate, nestled in the Yorkshire Dales, encompasses over 30,000 acres of lush countryside, with the home itself featuring an impressive array of rooms rich in architectural heritage and steeped in centuries of history. Furthermore, in your I woke as a Cavendish heir timeline, you'd stand to inherit nearly £1 billion Great British pounds in assets, along with your dukedom. In today's episode, we'll feature the life and times of one such aristocratic heir, William Cavendish, the Earl of Burlington, as we describe the £1 billion heir to the Cavendish dynasty. William Cavendish, currently sporting the elegant title of Earl of Burlington and affectionately known as Bill Burlington on the day-to-day, is a walking chapter of English history, decked out in aristocratic splendour that stretches back over half a millennium. And the Cavendish name, synonymous with immense estates and a hefty slice of the political pie, has been etching its grand signature across the UK's high society pages since the good old Tudor times. Now, young William, well, youngish for an earl, is prepped and polished to step into shoes that could fill entire history books, because his dad, Peregrine, the 12th Duke of Devonshire, isn't just a garden variety duke. No, he's perched rather comfortably atop a mountain of cash, reportedly totalling a cool £910 million as of 2024, which, we must assume, will go right to our Billy Burlington upon his father's passing. Now, William Cavendish could have swaggered into the title of Marquess of Hartington, the common title for next in line to become the Duke of Devonshire, yet he chose to stick with Burlington. This, naturally, could be a move that could be chalked up to his reverence for the title's deep historical roots, or perhaps it's just better branding. Who can say? But the title Earl of Burlington itself is no newcomer to the peerage scene, having been rolled out not once but twice, first in 1664 and again in 1831, and it's traditionally the Duke's grandson's title, which puts William right on the mark. Now, as the sands of time trickle down, William is on deck to inherit not just a name, but a veritable empire of stately piles and rolling estates. Take Chatsworth House, for example. Not merely a house, but a monument to all things opulent and stately, Chatsworth is where art, history and architecture flirt outrageously on a 30,000-acre stage. Yes, we're talking Raphael, grand gardens, and an air of genteel majesty that makes your average billionaire's penthouse look like a shabby bedsit. But wait, there's more. Over in Ireland, Lismore Castle looms, its Gothic spires slicing the sky. This castle isn't just a feast for the eyes, it's a cultural hotspot, boasting a contemporary art gallery curated by none other than William and his wife, Laura, Countess of Burlington. And while the public can meander through its enchanting gardens, the castle keeps its doors firmly closed, reserved for the likes of those who can fork out something close to a princely €50,000 for a week's sojourn. Then there are the likes of Holker Hall and Compton Place, rounding out a portfolio that would make the most stoic of stockbrokers weep with envy. With every stone of these estates, William Cavendish is set not merely to inherit a fortune, but to steward a legacy of cultural heritage that makes one ponder the real power of pedigree in preserving the past for posterity. Indeed, as the future Duke of Devonshire, William isn't just waiting to collect keys to numerous castles. He's gearing up to become the custodian of a lineage that's as quintessentially British as afternoon tea. As we observe from our less lordly perches, we must wonder what childhood must have been like for Billy, coming up with so much power and prestige to inherit. To get our answer, we'll flip over to the next chapter and find out. Born into a family where history and prestige are part of the daily bread, the Earl of Burlington's lineage is as rich in stories as it is in titles, being the son of Peregrine Cavendish, the 12th Duke of Devonshire. And the Cavendish family tree is a veritable directory of influence and affluence. Tracing back to Sir John Cavendish of the 14th century, who adopted his last name from the Suffolk village of Cavendish, the lineage gained prominence through strategic marriages and noble titles. Then, Sir William Cavendish's, the original William Cavendish, marriage to the famed Bess of Hardwicke set the stage for a succession of notable descendants, including the first Duke of Devonshire, William Cavendish, a staunch supporter of the Glorious Revolution in 1688. Over the centuries, the Cavendishes have accrued titles like Marquess of Hartington and Earl of Burlington, Bill's title, with the latter revived in 1831 for Lord George Cavendish. Now, Bill's father, Peregrine Cavendish, inherited the dukedom in 2004, bringing his own flavour to the title. Known among friends as Stoker, Peregrine not only manages vast estates in Derbyshire and North Yorkshire, but also oversees the iconic Chatsworth House. And Peregrine's mother, Deborah Mitford, adds a sprinkle of cultural renown to the family, being one of the Mitford Sisters, legendary figures in British social circles. But on the maternal side, William Cavendish's heritage is equally illustrious. Amanda Heywood Lonsdale, born in the same year as her husband, brings the Heywood Lonsdale family into the mix, and her marriage to Peregrine in 1967 melded two significant aristocratic bloodlines. Commander Edward Gavin Heywood Lonsdale, Amanda's father, etched his name into naval history with notable aplomb. During World War II, he earned the Distinguished Service Cross for his adept leadership aboard the HMS Keppel, a destroyer that faced the tumults of war with steadfast resolve. And his wife, Joan Grace Heywood Lonsdale, maiden name Shakespeare, offers a touch of literary romance to their tale, suggesting a lineage linked to the esteemed playwright, though this is probably more a flight of fancy than a documented truth. Thus, together, Amanda and Peregrine Cavendish, as William Cavendish's parents, united their respective lineages, but also set the stage for the continuation of their families' legacies through their three children. But, as ever, young Bill Burlington would have to carve out his own life, which is where we'll begin on next chapter. William Burlington, who first saw the light of day on the 6th of June 1969, was ushered into the academic arena at Eton College, a storied institution where the whispers of history blend with the voices of future leaders. And Eton, with its sprawling lawns and ancient facades, has long been the crucible for the British elite, moulding the minds of countless dukes, prime ministers and royals. Here, Burlington was steeped in a tradition of excellence and expectation that has shaped the leaders of the UK for centuries. Then, his intellectual journey continued at the University of Cambridge, another venerable beacon of learning and a second home to many who would one day wear the mantle of leadership in Britain. Cambridge, known for its rigorous academic standards and its pivotal role in shaping the discourse of science, politics and the arts, offered Burlington a platform to delve deeper into both the traditional and the avant-garde, preparing him for a life of varied pursuits. Upon concluding his formal education, Burlington veered from the expected path of aristocracy into the world of photography, studying under Jorge Lewinsky, himself a celebrated portraitist of artists. This career choice may hint at Burlington's modern view of his aristocratic duties. Rather than confine himself to estate management or the ceremonial roles often associated with dukes-in-waiting, he chose to capture the world through a lens, perhaps signaling a shift towards a more personal and expressive type of leadership. Then, in 2007, Burlington's life took a romantic turn when he married Laura Roundell, a woman with her own impressive connections to the art and fashion worlds. Formerly a model and stylist, Laura brought to the marriage her expertise from the world of high fashion, alongside ties to Christie's, where her father served as deputy chairman. This marriage was not just a union of hearts, but also a fusion of art, fashion, and aristocracy, rooted in significant historical and cultural bedrock. And Laura's childhood home, Dorfold Hall, is itself a treasure trove of history. This Grade 1 listed Jacobean mansion, described by Nicholas Pevsner as one of Cheshire's finest, encapsulates the grandeur and continuity of British architectural and aristocratic traditions. And the estate, first built for Ralph Wilbraham, has seen centuries pass by its walls, each adding layers to its storied existence. Together, William and Laura are parents to 3 children: Lady Maud, James, Lord Cavendish, and Lady Eleanor. And their home life at Bolton Abbey, with its refurbished interiors by Lady Burlington, and their artistic endeavours at Lismore Castle in Ireland, where they have established an arts gallery, reflect a blend of heritage and contemporary sensibility. And yet, when Bill Burlington needs to flex his social status, he heads down to one of London's most storied gentlemen's clubs, which of course he owns. William Cavendish, Earl of Burlington, is now at the helm of Pratt's Club, a storied gentlemen's club tucked away in a townhouse just off St James's Street in London. Inherited from his father, the 12th Duke of Devonshire, the club has been a part of the Cavendish family legacy for generations, marking a continuous thread of aristocratic stewardship. Founded in 1857 by William Nathaniel Pratt, a steward to the Duke of Beaufort, Pratt's Club began its life in the very townhouse Pratt occupied from 1841. It subsequently became a hub for the Duke and his circle, who would gather there for evenings filled with lively company and conversation. After Pratt's passing in 1860, his widow Sophia and son Edwin maintained the club's operations, preserving its intimate atmosphere. The property later fell into the hands of the 11th Duke of Devonshire, Bill's grandfather, ensuring its continued association with the Cavendish lineage. Yet, despite its blue-blooded ownership, Pratt's Club stands out in London's club scene for its distinctly cosy, unpretentious vibe, a contrast to the more opulent establishments nearby. It is relatively intimate, with a membership cap of around 600 and a dining room in the basement that accommodates just 14 guests at a time. And the interiors are a throwback to another era, complete with an old-fashioned kitchen sporting an open fire, displays of stuffed birds and fish, and antique furnishings that all contribute to its old-world allure. Now, a curious tradition at Pratt's Club is the naming of all male staff members as George, a custom extending back decades. This idiosyncrasy was humorously adapted when the club employed its first female steward in the 1980s, who was promptly nicknamed Georgina. The persistence of these traditions, alongside the absence of modern conveniences such as air conditioning and elevators in its heritage-listed building, cements Pratt's reputation as a charmingly eccentric enclave in modern London. Then, in a striking departure from tradition, Pratt's Club recently opened its doors to female members, a groundbreaking change implemented in May 2023 by the Earl himself, without prior consultation with the club's membership. This decision has stirred a pot of mixed feelings. Some long-time members have lamented the erosion of a historic tradition, while younger members and modern observers see it as a forward-looking adjustment critical for the club's relevance and longevity. Thus, Pratt's Club, with its rich history, quaint customs, and recent nod to progress, continues to be a point of interest and discussion among London's elite clubland. As the Earl of Burlington steers this institution through these changing times, the essence of Pratt's Club remains a balancing act between maintaining its cherished quirks and evolving with the societal tides. However, bringing clubland into the 21st century isn't Bill Burlington's only day-to-day hobby. Since when you stand to inherit a dukedom, you don't really have a job like the rest of us. In the next chapter, we'll detail what he's up to in 2024 and see what we can find. Lord William Cavendish is a figure of notable versatility and commitment, having embraced a series of significant roles that showcase his broad interests, from heritage preservation to philanthropy and education. For example, between 2019 and 2020, Lord Burlington served as the High Sheriff of Derbyshire, acting as the Queen's representative in the county. And during his tenure, he put another modern twist on this age-old office by organising a 208-mile charity bike ride across Derbyshire. This endeavour aimed to support Foundation Derbyshire, a charity dedicated to enriching local communities. Although initially postponed due to the COVID-19 lockdown, the ride ultimately went ahead, underscoring his dedication to the cause. Additionally, March 2018 saw Lord Burlington stepping into another significant role as he was installed as the fourth Chancellor of the University of Derby. Taking over from his father, who previously held the position, he marked the occasion with a ceremony at the university's Buxton campus, and his speech highlighted his enthusiasm for the university's role in fostering student potential across all backgrounds. Living up to his commitment, he has since become deeply involved with the institution, particularly as the chair of the Business School Council, where he contributes to setting strategic directions and enhancing industry partnerships. Aside from his educational and philanthropic pursuits, Lord Burlington still has a fervent passion for the arts. He has been instrumental in establishing Lismore Castle Arts, a contemporary arts gallery situated within Lismore Castle in Ireland, the historical home of the Dukes of Devonshire. The gallery has become a cultural hub, hosting exhibitions by acclaimed artists such as Matthew Barney, Barry Flanagan, and Richard Long, thereby enriching the cultural landscape and continuing a family legacy of supporting the arts. Through these varied roles, Lord Burlington not only honours the traditions and responsibilities inherited from his lineage, but also brings a personal touch to each endeavour. When you think of the phrase old money as it relates to England, most commonly you think of wealthy aristocrats operating under the radar, amassing unfathomable wealth and sumptuous estates, such as the iconic Grosvenor family, also known as the Dukes of Westminster, buying up London like their personal monopoly board, all the while maintaining a neutral political position in the public eye, or the quietly powerful Percy family, the Dukes of Norfolk, owning vast swathes of the north of England, while simultaneously staying careful not to run afoul of the British tabloids. However, there is one British aristocratic family who has tossed that old money secrecy out of the window over the decades. They've opted to become synonymous not only with public displays of social status and the roaring 20s socialite lifestyle, but perhaps more notably, proudly tied their family name to the mast of controversial political ideologies, boasting family members who befriended none other than Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels, with other siblings opting to become alleged card-carrying members of the Communist Party. In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we tell the full story of perhaps England's most controversial Old Money dynasty, from their regal roots in the Norman Conquest of 1066 to their strategic intermarriage with everyone from the Cavendishes to the Guinnesses, as we describe. The Mitfords, the old money British family that loved the Nazis and the Soviets. The iconic Mitford family, with roots dug deep into the aristocratic soil of Mitford, Northumberland, managed to shine in the British aristocracy's constellation, not so much for their vaults of gold, but for their rich historical ties and titles. And by the time the mid-20th century rolled around, having a Mitford at the helm as High Sheriff of Northumberland was almost tradition, and an emblem of their entrenched status in society. But let's talk about the real jewels in the Mitford crown. The 6 daughters of David Freeman Mitford, 2nd Baron Redesdale and Sidney Bowles, known to history as simply the Mitford Sisters. You see, these ladies weren't just any English roses, they were wildflowers, thriving on the estate's margins in a series of progressively less grand homes, thanks to their father's knack for financial folly. But Nancy, Pamela, Diana, Unity, Jessica and Deborah Mitford turned this to their advantage, blooming into distinct personalities that would dazzle the literary and social scenes. Nancy Mitford, the pack's leader in wit and word, spun her upbringing into literary gold with novels like The Pursuit of Love and Love in a Cold Climate, giving the world a peek behind the velvet curtains of the English upper class. Through her eyes, we got front-row seats to the decadence and decline of Britain's elite, all served up with a generous helping of humour and satire. Furthermore, the Mitfords became synonymous with the bright young things, that glittering, fast-living crowd that defined London's social scene in the 1920s and 30s. Thus, their beauty and brains, mixed with a penchant for political extremes and headline-worthy romances, kept them firmly in the public eye. Indeed, these women were more than just socialites. They were influencers avant la lettre, rubbing elbows with the era's giants in politics and culture. However, their stories were laced with controversy and contradiction, each sister forging a path that veered sharply from the aristocratic expectations set before them. Notably, there was an ideological thunderbolt that split the family right down the middle, especially as the 1930s and 40s rolled in with their share of global turmoil. Unity and Diana Mitford veered sharply into fascism's embrace, with Unity buddying up to none other than Adolf Hitler and spending her days in Nazi Germany, and Diana tying the knot with Oswald Mosley, the head honcho of the British Union of Fascists. Their unwavering march alongside fascism, even as the world recoiled from World War II and the Holocaust, branded them as the family's black sheep in the eyes of both kin and country. On the flip side, Jessica Mitford played the family's wild card, chucking her aristocratic privileges for a deep dive into communism. Her bolt with Esmond Romilly, Winston Churchill's nephew and communist compadre, wasn't just a love story. It was a bold middle finger to her lineage and a hug to her ideological antithesis. Jessica's leap across the pond to champion civil rights and wield her pen as a journalist only widened the familial rift, turning the Mitford saga into a mirror, reflecting the era's seismic ideological shifts. And throughout their lives, the Mitford sisters, and family at large, had the legendary homes and estates to match their dynamic lifestyles. Nestled in the heart of the Cotswolds, Asthall Manor and Swinbrook House were more than just scenic backdrops for the Mitford saga. They were the crucibles for the sisters' unique characters and convictions. These estates, emblematic of English pastoral charm, were the stages on which the drama of the Mitford family played out, shaping the sisters in indelible ways. But let's not overlook the legendary Mitford Castle. Sprouting from the roots of an Anglo-Saxon fort, by 1138, Mitford Castle boasted the unique claim of a pentagonal keep, the only one of its kind in England. Yet it faced the wrath of King John's Flemish forces in 1215 and suffered under Scottish invasions, bearing scars as testament to its tumultuous history. And before the glitter of Mitford Hall, there was the Mitford Old Manor House, the family's erstwhile hearth. This residence, while lesser known, served as a pivotal stage for the family's early narrative, embedding itself deeply in the Mitford lore. And then, the pièce de résistance, Mitford Hall. Erected in 1828, this architectural marvel was among the first masterpieces of John Dobson, set against a canvas of 5,000 acres of verdant splendour. With 50 houses and 7 farms under its domain, Mitford Hall reigns over a majestic landscape, its gaze stretching across open fields to where the River Wansbeck murmurs secrets past the brooding ruins of Mitford Castle. These estates, far more than mere buildings or plots of land, were the crucibles of the Mitford sisters' extraordinary lives. However, in order to get a full picture of exactly how England's most controversial old money family first got their start, we'll have to go back to the Norman Conquest of 1066, which is where the Mitfords got their start, like so many other aristocratic dynasties on Albion. In the turbulent wake of the Norman Conquest of 1066, a new chapter began for England, a saga of power, legacy and transformation that would etch the destinies of many noble houses into the very stone of the realm. Among these emerging titans was the Mitford family, their story unfolding under the shadow of this seismic shift in English history. Indeed, this Norman era birthed many well-known old money dynasties, such as the Percys and the Grosvenors, names that resonate through history to this very day, much like the Mitfords. As the dust settled on the battlefield, one John Mitford emerged, a figure both of his time and beyond it. With strategic acumen and a fierce will, he claimed the castle of Mitford in Northumberland, a fortress that would stand as a testament to the family's ascent. Thus, this early acquisition wasn't merely a home, it was a declaration of their lasting presence in English history. And as time marched on, the Mitfords didn't just rest on their laurels. Through marriages that would make even the most astute matchmakers blush, and the strategic gathering of titles and lands, they cemented their status among the aristocracy's elite. By the Anglo-Saxon era's end, the Mitfords weren't just a family, they were a barony, wielding influence and authority that others could only aspire to. Then, the Middle Ages threw the Mitfords into the midst of the Border Reivers' culture, a time of raiding and feuding that tested the mettle of many. Yet even here, amid the chaos, the Mitfords thrived, bolstering their status and laying the groundwork for future generations. The 17th century's reward came in the form of Charles II, bestowing upon them the castle and manor of Mitford, a nod to their unwavering loyalty and service to the crown. But the narrative of the Mitfords is not one to dwell solely on past glories. As the 18th and 19th centuries unfolded, figures like William Mitford, a historian and Member of Parliament, demonstrated the family's capacity for growth beyond their Northumberland roots. Therefore, William's strategic marriage and connections breathed new life into the Mitford saga, intertwining their destiny with that of the Dukes of Northumberland. These alliances were more than mere social contracts. They were the pathways to the British peerage, culminating in the creation of the Baron Redesdale title. However, the historic legacy of the Mitford family would be inextricably connected to the family's ups and downs in the 20th century, which is what we'll explore in the next chapter. During the roller coaster years of the 1930s and 1940s, the Mitford sisters Unity and Diana cut a swath through the political extremes of the time with a verve that could only be termed Mitfordian. Unity Mitford's deep-seated adoration for Adolf Hitler and her escapades in Nazi Germany, coupled with Diana's union to Oswald Mosley, the figurehead of the British Union of Fascists, painted a vivid picture of political divergence that left an indelible mark on their family's name and their personal trajectories. And Unity's dalliance with Hitler transcended the bounds of mere fascination. She was a fixture in his inner sanctum, sharing his company upwards of 140 times. In fact, such was her fervour that she was bequeathed a golden swastika insignia by Hitler himself and enjoyed the privilege of a reserved box at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Furthermore, her allegiance to Hitler and his cause was so entrenched that the outbreak of war between Britain and Germany drove her to an attempt at taking her own life, an act that resulted in a bullet permanently lodged in her brain, impairing her mental faculties until her demise in 1948. And Diana Mitford's engagement with fascism was no less pronounced, crystallizing through her marriage to Oswald Mosley. Their nuptials, officiated in the domicile of Nazi minister Joseph Goebbels and graced by Hitler, was an unambiguous pledge of their political stance. Diana's commitment to fascist ideologies remained steadfast, even under the shadow of wartime internment alongside Mosley, regarded as a greater public threat than her spouse. Despite the ignominy and the personal adversities that followed, including imprisonment, Diana's unwavering support for fascism and her peculiar loyalty to Hitler remained intact. And while Unity and Diana revelled in their notoriety, their brother, Thomas Mitford, also exhibited a flirtation with Nazism, albeit with less public scrutiny. His particular interest underscored the Mitford family's entanglement with extreme political ideologies, fueling public intrigue and controversy over their scandal-ridden and politically polarizing existence. In stark contrast, Jessica Mitford, another sibling, charted a course replete with rebellion, activism, and literary achievement that veered sharply from the right-wing radicalism of Unity and Diana. Jessica, affectionately dubbed Decca, rebelled against her aristocratic roots early, embracing communist sympathies and socialism, and dedicating herself to the cause of social justice and reform. Her defiance was epitomized by her elopement at age 19 with Esmond Romilly to engage in the Spanish Civil War, marking a bold departure from her sister's affiliations. This rebellious streak led her to the United States with Romilly, where she faced widowhood during World War II, but found love anew with radical lawyer Robert Treuhaft. Together, they faced the McCarthy-era's challenges head-on, steadfast in their refusal to betray their communist affiliations. Jessica's literary career, highlighted by The American Way of Death, her seminal critique of the funeral industry, and other works exposing American societal flaws, distinguished her as a muckraking journalist committed to unearthing and addressing social injustices. Therefore, Jessica Mitford's life story sets her apart from her infamous fascist sisters and adds a wonderfully complex layer to this already iconic, old money British dynasty. And yet, there are more sisters to investigate who would leave an unforgettable legacy on the literary field themselves. In the pantheon of English literature, Nancy Mitford not only secured a distinguished spot, but also sprinkled it with her characteristic humour. You see, Mitford wielded her pen to craft novels that were as much a playful jab at her own social circles as they were a vivid showcase of her narrative prowess. And the crowning jewel of Mitford's oeuvre, The Pursuit of Love, hit the shelves in 1945 and immediately captivated the public with its tale of Linda Radlett's quixotic ventures into love. This novel, steeped in the peculiarities of Mitford's own family dynamics, offered readers a humorous yet poignant exploration of the quest for affection among the English gentry. Indeed, its success was meteoric, with sales soaring to 200,000 copies within the year of its release, cementing its status as a beloved staple in the literary world. Not resting on her laurels, Mitford presented Love in a Cold Climate 4 years later, shifting the lens to Polly Hampton, a figure of beauty and social grace. Through the familiar voice of Fanny, who also narrates The Pursuit of Love, this novel traverses the landscape of love, matrimonial aspirations, and the lofty expectations of upper-crust society, with Mitford's trademark incisive humour and keen observation. And while Nancy Mitford became a literary star, her sisters Deborah and Pamela charted courses that, though more subdued, were equally impactful in their own right. Deborah, the youngest of the Mitford siblings, embraced her role as the Duchess of Devonshire with vigour, dedicating herself to the revival of Chatsworth House. Her efforts not only salvaged a key piece of England's architectural heritage, but also opened its splendour to the public, earning her recognition as a steward of cultural legacy. Pamela, the most introspective of the Mitford sisters, chose a life far removed from the limelight and the political storms that often engulfed her family. Her private existence, while not as publicly documented, offers a glimpse into the quieter, perhaps deeper currents of the Mitford family narrative. Thus, the other Mitford sisters, each in her unique way, have woven their threads into the fabric of English cultural and social life. Nancy, with her satirical insights into the absurdities and intricacies of aristocratic existence, and Deborah, through her dedication to heritage conservation, highlight the diverse legacy of a family that continues to fascinate and inspire. With such an illustrious and contrasting family dynamic, surely we'd love to know what the current living descendants are up to. With that said, let us get an update on the living Mitford family members in the next chapter. In British aristocracy, few names sparkle with the lustre of Peregrine Andrew Morney Cavendish, the 12th Duke of Devonshire. With a lineage that intertwines with the country's history, his life story reads almost like a novel from a more genteel era, albeit with modern twists. Born on the 27th of April 1944, at the illustrious Chatsworth House in Derbyshire, England, he emerged as the sole surviving son of Andrew Cavendish, the 11th Duke, and none other than Deborah Mitford, the youngest of the Mitford sisters. And it is against the vivid backdrop of his mother and aunt's fame that the Duke, affectionately dubbed Stoker, ascended to prominence following his father's passing in May 2004. However, his pre-ducal titles of Earl of Burlington and Marquess of Hartington were but stepping stones to the storied Cavendish legacy, his paternal family, whose roots and influence in British society stretch back to the 16th century. Under his stewardship, the Cavendish fortune, conservatively pegged at £905 million, and the stewardship of Chatsworth House, a jewel in the crown of England's cultural heritage, continue to thrive. Beyond the walls of his ancestral home, the Duke's impact is felt in various spheres, including his roles as Chancellor of the University of Derby and Her Majesty's representative at Ascot. And Deborah Cavendish, or Mitford, his mother, played a pivotal role in the renaissance of Chatsworth House, transforming it into a beacon of cultural and commercial success through her visionary enhancements to its gardens and the expansion of its retail and dining facilities. Another notable figure with Mitford ties is Jonathan Bryan Guinness, the third Baron Moyne. As the son of Diana Mitford, Jonathan's life narrative is equally imbued with both the privilege and the complexities inherent to his heritage. Also born into the Guinness brewing dynasty in March 1930, his journey has been marked by diverse business pursuits and his fair share of controversy, notably his acquittal in a Swedish financial scandal involving Truster. Yet, it's not just the boardroom battles that define him. His advocacy for the Falun Gong movement and his tenure as a non-executive director of Guinness plc speak to a broader engagement with world affairs. And his literary foray, a detailed account of the distiller's takeover scandal, offers a rare glimpse into the corporate drama that once threatened to estrange the Guinness family from their ancestral enterprise. Among these, Jasmine Leonora Guinness emerges as a beacon of style and entrepreneurial spirit. Born in September 1976 to Patrick Guinness and Liz Casey, Jasmine not only carries the legacy of the Guinness brewing empire, but also the unforgettable mark of the Mitford lineage through her great-grandmother, Diana Mitford. Educated in the arts and propelled by her heritage, she carved a niche for herself in the fashion industry, stepping onto the scene in 1994 and eventually founding the whimsical toy shop Honey Jam in the heart of London's Portobello Road in 2006. Her nuptials to Gawain O'Dare Rainey in 2006, festooned with the presence of notable personalities, and her role as a mother to three, underscore the personal joys and commitments behind her public persona. Professionally, Jasmine has lent her visage to brands like Armani and Shu Uemura, and her familial legacy was celebrated in events like the Arthur's Day festivities, paying homage to her ancestor, Arthur Guinness. But the narrative of the Mitford Sisters, known for their dazzling beauty, controversial political stances, and literary prowess, also finds a continuation in Jasmine's endeavors. Blending the glamour of fashion with the gravitas of history, and Max Rufus Mosley, another scion of the Mitford legacy, navigated a path distinct from Jasmine's, yet equally compelling. Born to Oswald Mosley, the British fascist leader, and Diana Mitford, Max's life was shadowed by his parents' notorious past. However, he carved out a distinctive legacy as a lawyer, racing driver, and later as the president of the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, where his advocacy for safety reforms in motorsport and his role in transforming Formula One into a global spectacle underscored a life dedicated to innovation and change. Despite his achievements, Max's life was not without controversy, including a landmark legal battle for privacy that highlighted his complex relationship with his family's history. And last, African-American academic James Forman Jr.'s lineage introduces another fascinating patterner of the Mitford narrative. The grandson of Jessica Mitford, James's career as a legal scholar and his book, Locking Up Our Own, Crime and Punishment in Black America, which won the 2018 Pulitzer Prize for General Nonfiction, reflect a commitment to social justice that mirrors the activism of his parents, James Forman Sr. and Mitford family member, Constancia Romilly. His co-founding of the Maya Angelou School in Washington, D.C. further exemplifies a life dedicated to activism and advocacy. Therefore, these living descendants of the Mitford family, each pursuing distinct paths, underscore the enduring impact of their heritage. From fashion and philanthropy to motorsport reform and legal scholarship, their lives reflect a diverse yet interconnected legacy that continues to influence and inspire across generations and fields.